So we have a few questions, and the first question is for Dr. Ron Toomey. How do we inculcate values in adolescents given the limited time that we have given during curriculum time? How do you inculcate values, or what else can we do to inculcate values in adolescents given the limited time educators have with students?
Well, I don't know who asked that question. Do you want to own up? That's a really good question. Well, everyone in Australia says, look, you're just asking me to fit more stuff in. I haven't got enough time to do what I'm doing now. Well, that's what I was trying to show you with the literature stuff and with the Socratic circle stuff. You've got to think outside the square. You try and do two things at once. I don't know enough about the circumstance in Singapore right now, but this... yeah? I don't know enough about the circumstance in Singapore right now, but I can tell you this. When you use that values-based education approach I'm talking about, you spend much, much, much less time disciplining people, telling them don't do this, concentrate. They are switched on. They are self-regulated. The challenge for you, and I don't want to preach here, but the challenge for you is to find what you do on a day-to-day basis to get those values in there. And the values, the teaching of the values, they work for you. You won't have to fit anything else in. You won't have to fit in, say, like they're trying to in my country right now, consent education. Because it won't be an issue. They'll be decent people.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm going to move this along pretty quickly. So the next question is for Mdm Tamil Selvi. How do we address the lack of attention students receive at home, given that this is something beyond our control as educators?
Can you please repeat again one more time?
Okay, sorry. So how do we address the lack of attention students receive at home, given that this is beyond our control as educators?
Okay, this in all the schools we do face this because the responsibility comes from parents. So what we actually advise the teachers, parents, is have clear expectations for the child at home. When you have a clear expectations, what they can do, what they cannot do, they are more clearer in your rules, and you need to be consistent as well. When you have that, sure, they will be able to actually do what you want them to do. The attention is also starting with routine. What do you want this attention for? Is it parent-child attention, or is it you want the child to work on the academic attention? Which area that you're talking about is also important. Yeah, if you're talking about academic side, then you need to form the routine. That means 7 to 8, if you're talking about primary children, it will be 7 to 8, you need to have that routine of doing homework, having sessions. And as a parents, we need to switch off the TV, we need to close off the phones, everything, and focus on the child. Because when you give that attention, the child will be doing very well in what you want. If you don't switch off and your TV is on, there's a lot of distraction around the child. So the focus is not possible at all. And the child can understand you. Hey, my mom and dad is not watching TV because I'm studying. So that attention is also very important. So if you can start from there, it's easy for you to keep going on. And when they grow older, you don't need to sit with them. If that routine is created, you don't need to sit with them. They will be able to do on their own. Yeah. Hope I answered your question.
Thank you so much. So it's more about spending time with them, quality time. So this question is for Ms. Haanusia. So how do spending quality time and creating healthy attachments, how do we in the school setting create healthy attachments with our students, and what does a healthy attachment in the school setting look like?
Hi. Is this on? Yeah. So I think that's a very important question. I think it's also to just perhaps first remove that expectation that you are the sole caregiver, right? So I think it's to remove that expectation that I need to fix this child. I think if we move to this place where we understand that let's do the best we can, right? With regards to let me focus on, can I get to know my children in the school better? That's healthy attachment, right? We're not trying to substitute that attachment that children have with their parents to educators. You can't, and it's the early years that actually play a really, really huge role. Not that teachers don't, but I suppose it's also for you all to manage your expectation. Right? So in the school, healthy attachment would be to actually be connected, right? To figure out each and every, if it's possible, at least to know them on a slightly deeper level, to be able to make eye contact when we talk, to have a little bit of space in the lesson to actually make something that's a bit more personal. I think for a lot of teens and even young children, right, they really want to know who you are. I mean, that's a question I get all the time, and I can't tell them a lot of things because I'm a psych, right? But I think you all have the privilege of actually being a little bit more connected to the children. They want to know who you are. They want to know that you know them. And I think even if it's just a little bit of that conversation, if it's not in class, if it's in passing, just asking them things like, hey, how are you doing? Right? Yesterday you told me that, you failed your exam. So how do you feel about that? That small, slight connection is already going to make a very big difference to that relationship. I hope that answered the question.
That did. Thank you. Thank you. We have a few more questions for Ms. Tamil Selvi. Some educators are asking, what can mainstream school teachers do to better support the special needs scene or cultivate empathy among students in the mainstream school?
So it's going back to inclusion. Yes. Okay, this is a very good question because, when I was doing MLS, the teachers also asked the same question. You know that the student has certain disability, right? And they are portraying. Okay, so it's really connecting. When you have a student with disability in school, in mainstream setting, you know their behavior traits. Say, for example, if I'm talking about ADHD, you must know the traits of that student. ADHD, what are the things that they do? They can't focus, first. Second, they will be very active. They will be moving around. And if they don't have a proper schedule, what happens is they will be disturbing each and every child, correct? So these things you will be seeing in your mainstream setting. You have 40 students, and this one child can be a disruptive child in your classroom. So when you are talking about this, you do have some schedule for that child. When you have a schedule, it can add on with sensory things as well, because the child might have sensory issues. So when the child is free, the child will move around and start to disturb the other kids. So you need to keep him engaged. So if the parents allow you to disclose whether the child has ADHD and you want to explain to the colleagues about it, if the parents allow you, then you can actually tell the student, this child, and you also need to get a consent from the child. Are you okay that your behaviors are disrupting? So can I tell your friends so that they can understand you and empathize you with what the things that you're doing? So when you get the consent, and if the child is okay with it, you can tell the whole class that our kid, each and everyone is unique. You can come from that perspective and tell them that, for him, he has ADHD. So you can explain what is the traits that he has, and you can ask the support from the colleagues, that the friends, whenever he behaves, what he can do, how they can support him. Say for example, if the child is disruptive, the child, the friends can remind the child who has ADHD, could you please take your seat? Or, there is a worksheet on your table, maybe you can do that. Or there is a coloring for you, so maybe you can follow through. So this support can help the child who has ADHD. So the teacher also can have an ease of mind that the child is not bullied, by the 39 students in the classroom. Yeah, so you need to create that support system. I have a friend who has a child as autism. So this child was inside the classroom setting, mainstream setting, and she had issues in the starting, how the child is behaving in the classroom, and the teacher also had issues in handling the child's behavior. Because autism has a meltdown. You don't know when the child will be triggered. What triggers them, they will not be able to, you will not be able to identify. But when the class knows that the child has a certain disability, and they started to accommodate. It took time, but they started to accommodate the child, and the child started to adapt inside the classroom setting. And now he is doing very well. He is in P5, and he is coping very well, and he is able to actually, move to, higher levels in the academic as well. So, is the support system in the classroom is very, very important. Yeah, hope I answered your question.
Thank you, Madam Selvi. So we've learned that a lot of these students, they just want to be seen, heard, and understood. Yeah. So with that, I end the Q&A session. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Haanusia. Thank you, Madam Tamil Selvi and Dr. Toomey, for addressing our queries and for highlighting the importance of creating optimal environments for children and adolescents to move them beyond their label to help them produce the extraordinary.